Tidal waves of kindness and hatred surge through the nation after the assassination of Charlie Kirk, and a mass shooting hoax leads to the injury of a law enforcement officer at the United States Naval Academy. I'm Tony Kinnett, host of the Daily Signal's Tony Kinnett Cast, syndicated nationally at 7 p.m. Eastern. It is Friday, September 12th, 2025. This is the Daily Signal's top news in 10. Yesterday afternoon at about 5:30 p.m., outlets began reporting of concerns of threats at the United States Naval Academy. At 6:17 p.m., Fox News published an article titled U.S. Naval Academy in Annapolis on lockdown as active threat is reported. Quoting, "The U.S. Naval Academy is on lockdown after a midshipman who had been kicked out of the school has returned to campus armed with a weapon. Multiple sources inside the U.S. Naval Academy tell Fox News." Additional sources inside the United States Naval Academy also contacted outlets like Reuters, the Associated Press, and a couple of regional outlets saying a lot of the same things, suggesting there were 3 casualties already. There was one medevac that was being dispatched to the Naval Academy, leading many, including us on the Tony Kinnett Cast, to believe that the individual being medevaced was in critical condition.
Right now, we're getting new information as you look live there in Annapolis, Maryland. This is the U.S. Naval Academy. There is a victim being taken out there. We are now getting word from officials there are multiple victims being assessed by emergency medical staff. One victim, at least, is being transported, and there you see it, from the Naval Academy by medevac with serious, potentially life-threatening wounds. Again, this is the U.S. Naval Academy. Early on, we had reports about at 5:30 in the afternoon that there was a possible active shooter situation. We then had authorities saying that the Naval Academy was on lockdown, and then we had further information from sources on the ground, some of them midshipmen who had been barricaded in their hall, Bancroft Hall, that a midshipman who had been kicked out of the school had returned to campus armed with a weapon. Multiple sources were telling us that. Gunshots were heard, and then one official said the shooter is knocking on doors pretending to be a military policeman. Again, we don't have a number yet on the total number of casualties. We know one is in serious, potentially life-threatening situation, being medevaced from the U.S. Naval Academy. We're going to continue to watch this, bring you the latest here on Fox News Channel.
At about 9 p.m., the United States Navy released a statement through a Navy official saying, quote, "Naval Support Activity Annapolis Security, in coordination with local law enforcement, responded to reports of suspicious activity on the Naval Academy grounds. There is no active shooter threat. However, one person was injured while naval security forces were clearing a building. One person has been medevaced with injuries. They are in stable condition. We will provide updates as they become available." According to NBC News, it appears that a former midshipman who was thrown out of the academy made anonymous threats through social media by spoofing or faking his IP address to appear as though he were on campus at the academy. Students were then placed on lockdown out of an abundance of caution. There were then social media rumors which suggested that the shooter was dressed as a law enforcement officer, which may have led to the law enforcement officer being shot during the clearing of a building, which resulted in the medevac. Despite intermediary reports that it was the law enforcement officer who was shot and then was medevaced to the hospital, it appears, according to this article from WBAL-TV, who appears to be tying all of the threads together from yesterday's mass shooting scare, quote, "Students were placed on lockdown out of an abundance of caution. A midshipman who was sheltered in place thought a member of law enforcement was a threat and hit him with a training weapon. Law enforcement then shot the midshipman, who is at a hospital and is expected to recover," end quote. Yesterday evening on the Tony Kinnett Cast, we initially reported what several other outlets had confirmed, outlets that we normally rely on the validity of a story in case there are 5 or 6 of those more trusted breaking news outlets giving that information over to us. We then clarified that the story was more uncertain later on in the show, but that was a good hour and a half later. So we want to make sure that we provide a full correction to that, and this will again be repeated on tonight's episode of the Tony Kinnett Cast, because we believe very strongly in making sure that we are as transparent with you as possible concerning how we get certain news and when and why we share it. And tidal waves of both kindness and hatred surge through the nation after the assassination of Charlie Kirk. Vice President J.D. Vance dropped everything he was doing in order to escort and be one of the pallbearers to Charlie's casket as it was loaded onto Air Force Two and then returned to Arizona. As a note, when Air Force Two landed in Phoenix, this is how the air traffic controller greeted Charlie.
Welcome home, Charlie. You didn't deserve it. May God bless your family.
The President of the United States also had this to say about his hoped response for the American people.
How do you want to see your supporters respond to this? Charlie Kirk was a big advocate of nonviolence and free speech on campus. How do you want your supporters to respond, sir?
I think that way. He was an advocate of nonviolence. That's the way I'd like to see people respond.
And while it is particularly difficult to summarize the reaction of a majority of those in the political space who knew Charlie, who worked with Charlie, who watched and were fans of his work, who were inspired and impacted for what will be their entire life's work of Charlie. I believe one of the best responses provided is by Ben Shapiro, who worked very closely with Charlie. Of course, Ben Shapiro of The Ben Shapiro Show and The Daily Wire also speaks at a lot of universities like Charlie did. And after a series of rumors that Ben was canceling his college tours upcoming out of safety concerns, which was a national news story and a hoax in and of itself, this was Ben Shapiro's response.
Now, it's still up to us. I saw a lot of rumors online today. I was made aware of this by my team that I canceled some sort of college tour. That's bullshit. I saw those rumors. They are false. I will be coming to college campuses, many of them this year. So will we all, I am sure, because we're Americans and we're not going to be deterred. Charlie's voice is not silent. We're going to pick up that bloodstained microphone where Charlie left it. And to those who would intimidate, who would seek to stop us, who would seek to end free discussion, who believe that they have ownership over public spaces and can violently threaten and kill people who speak freely, we are not going to stop. And I have two words. F you. We will not stop telling the truth. We will never stop telling the truth. We will never stop debating and discussing. We will never stop standing up for what America is and for what she should be. And we will never let Charlie Kirk's voice die. Goodbye to my friend, Charlie Kirk. May your memory be a blessing for your family and for your country and for all of us.
Unfortunately, much of the response also became much more poisonous throughout the day. A number of individuals in Democrat official positions, as well as major left-wing media entities, and especially a couple of young streamers, said particularly egregious things. I'm not going to play them on this episode of the Top News in 10. Instead, I am going to report that in Florida and several other states, there are investigations underway into individuals in certain public-facing, especially around children-facing positions, of those who are currently employed that are saying rather disturbing things about the death of Charlie Kirk at the hands of the assassin, who, at the time of this recording, still remains at large, though the FBI is making every concerted effort to get information out. There's speculation as to whether or not the online community and website 4chan has located the individual and the identity of the individual. This is something that the 4chan social media platform teams have in fact done before, and we will refrain on sharing any suspected identities until these can be confirmed. That said, we will be back tonight in order to wrap up the week. You can look down in the description and find a link to the Tony Kinnett Cast, as well as several other of our excellent shows. And I'd recommend that you go to thedailysignal.com and check out some of the articles written by our team this week. They've put in a lot of really, really excellent work, and it's very worth your time. I'm Tony Kinnett, and this has been the Daily Signal's Top News in 10. Take care.